to A Well-Designed Business. My name is LuAnn, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company Window Works from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. Today, I'm delighted to have Alex Gourlay with me. Alex is the principal of Vellum Interiors, a high-end residential interior design studio in Sydney, Australia. Founded in 2016, Vellum Interiors has quickly gained a reputation for creating beautiful, feel-good homes. Alex's work has been featured in multiple publications, and she was recognized as a finalist in the 2019 Dulux Colour Awards. You'll hear Alex and I talk about how we go way back, all the way to the beginning of the podcast. Alex was one of the many early listeners who let me know she was listening, who let me know she was learning and enjoying the show. Alex was also in our Money, Mindset, and Sales course, which was co-hosted with my friend Nancy Ganzekaupher. So Alex and I have already had the opportunity to get to know each other, and now today you're going to get that chance. Recently, Alex reached out to me to tell me how much she has learned and how much she has improved her business, but more importantly, how she has learned to improve her mindset. The specific lessons she mentioned to me included how in expanding your beliefs about what is possible for your business, it can and will attract more of what you want, and that ultimately grows your business. She also wrote to me how she learned how important it is to create processes that work best for you, and how she used to think that things had to be done a certain way because that's how the big names in the industry did it. She thought these were the, quote, rules, and even though they didn't work for her, she kept doing them. How about this? How about after I thank Article.com for sponsoring the show, I let Alex explain all of this in her own words. Sound like a plan? If you haven't heard about Article.com yet, you need to at least check them out. Head over to welldesigned.article.com to see all that they have for you. Furniture for living rooms, dining rooms, as well as office and outdoor spaces, all in a clean mid-century modern aesthetic. You know what I love best? The designer to the trade division is run and serviced by other interior designers just like you, so they get you. Head over to welldesigned.article.com. Now, I'm looking forward to introducing you to Alex. Hey, Alex, thank you so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Hey, LuAnn, it's great to be here.
So this is so fun for me, Alex, because you and I go back. First of all, I know that we're going to talk about how 18 months ago you took the Money, Mindset, and Sales course that Nancy Ganzekaupher and I did together. And of course, that was a nice process for all of us. But we go back before that because you were always one of those listeners that would comment on Instagram or send me an email. And, you know, you just can't know how important that is and how valuable. And I have to say, in the beginning months of the podcast, when there's certain people that stick out, and I you know what, I was just going to name the people, but I know that I'm going to leave out two others that are also very important to me. So I don't want to offend. But there was, I would say, a good 6, 7, 8 of you in the beginning from all over. You're from Australia, all different parts of the country and the world. And the thing about it is that it made me realize at that point, I had been listening to podcasts for nearly 10 years, and I had never left a podcast review on iTunes for any podcaster that I listened to. I had never, ever sent any podcaster any type of feedback whatsoever, because it just was like, this podcast is amazing. Of course it's amazing. They know it and they don't need to know. But you know what? You need to know, right?
Yeah.
And so I have to say thank you for that, because you were one
Oh,
of those
that's so
people.
nice.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So, but here's the thing. So, we have not talked to each other in almost, it's not quite, it's almost 18 months since we started the Money Mindset and Sales course
Hmm.
together, but it ended in December. And then, of course, we had our follow-up coaching call after that. So, it's probably about maybe 15, 16 months, right? Um,
Yes.
but you sent me an email recently and you said that you really are, wanting to share with all of our designer colleagues out there what you've learned since taking that course and all of the
Hmm.
other things that you've done with your business to really build your business. And for you, it's been about the mindset, about breaking through
Hmm.
some of the patterns that you noticed that you were in. And so, to start us off, Alex, tell us what are some of the impetus and the germ, and what is your big thing that you want to share?
Um, yeah, so for me, I think I always knew that I had potential. I always knew that I had a lot of potential, but I also knew that there was something holding me back from that. And it didn't matter how many, you know, newsletters I sent out or Instagram posts I did or anything like that. I knew in the back of my mind that there was still something there, yeah, that was just always holding me back. And I almost instinctively knew that it was something to do with mindset, which is a big reason why I chose to do your money mindset and sales course with Nancy. And then from there, I think that just sparked a whole journey of really delving into the world of mindset, a little bit of like energy and spirituality and self-development. And what I've really discovered is that almost everything that is an issue in my business comes back to a mindset issue.
Mm.
Mm.
Can you share
And
some examples of that you can
like
on a
there's
tangent
so
right here?
many examples. Yeah, there's so many examples. One of the most recent examples I can talk about is, yeah, in marketing. I never really put very much effort into my marketing. And then in the last 6 months or so, I realized like, okay, all right, I need to do something here because I'm not, I don't have a project that's ready to go anymore. I have to now go out and find business. And I felt really uncomfortable about doing marketing and publicity, and I wasn't sure why. So then I went back to the tools that I've now learnt to use, which is a lot of, writing in my journal, like, why do I feel uncomfortable about this? And then just waiting for things to come up. And I realized that, and it gets deep really quickly when you start looking at mindset issues, but I realized I didn't want to do any marketing and publicity and putting myself out there because I thought, well, who am I to do that?
Mm.
Who am I to talk about myself as this, talented designer? Who am I to talk about all the great work that I've done? I didn't even study this at university. This wasn't my first career, so I don't have as much experience as everyone else. So, yeah, all these really mean things going around in my mind.
Mm.
And then once I realized, actually, that's not even true. I've got, just as much talent as everybody else. And actually, there are people that need my help and that are looking for someone like me to help them. That helped me to break through and just put together a consistent marketing plan and actually take action on it.
Mm.
So that's just one example, but yeah, there are so
So,
many.
and the thing is, what I know is that because I've had this type of conversation will typically come up when I'm in person at a
Hmm.
live event, and a designer will come up to me and say that I struggle with this. I struggle with wondering and feeling like if I'm entitled to be successful, if I'm
Mm,
worth being successful. And, they hear how I talk on the show about my mother and my Aunt Honey. And, it's so interesting because your sentence in your head is, who am I to do that? And what's
mm,
interesting is I was raised with, if not you, who?
yeah.
And that's like think about those two sentences, they're tiny little sentences, but they're so powerful in forming how you think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's
And
crazy. It's crazy.
I
So
think
there's a
that
lot of
you are,
people out there that struggle with this, Alex. You're not alone.
yes, yes. And I think that you're probably the minority, someone that's been raised in that environment. It's super progressive
Yes. Yes.
because looking at it in my upbringing, I think as a girl as well as a woman, you're told not to brag about yourself, not to talk about yourself too much.
Mm-hmm.
At school, just the school environment, yeah, it's the same sort of thing. It's rude to talk about yourself or to come across as arrogant or to
Mm-hmm.
win all the prizes. It's just not really a very ladylike thing to do.
Mm-hmm. Well, and
Um,
I want to just say to you, what's interesting
mm,
is that might be a little nuance of the mindset there too, because
mm,
I'm not going to tell you that anybody would have tolerated me being, a boastful son of a gun.
mm,
Okay, right?
mm,
So it's the if not you, who isn't, and walk around and make sure everybody knows that you're the big cheese and you're this, and raise your hand for every single question in second grade, no matter
mm.
who looks silly. It really was from both my mother and my aunt. It was that quiet mindset. It really
Yes.
was. Now, I'm not saying that I was never crazy and never loud and all of that stuff. That's a different thing. But it still would have been unbecoming of me to act like an idiot and be boastful and be you know what I'm saying? So you see what I'm
Yes.
saying? Like there is a nuance there in the difference.
Mm,
One is be confident. The other is don't be a jerk in your confidence.
yes. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
right. And so I was not raised to just be boastful. It was just raised to have the simple awareness of, if you can't do it, why should somebody else be able to do it? Like
Mm,
it was more, if it's possible to be done, then it's possible to be done by you as well. That's
yes.
all it is. Like, it's funny because Steve Burston, he is the leader of Exciting Windows, and he always brings up the analogy of Richard Bannon, who ran the 4 Minute Mile, and of the and before that, for years and years and
Mm,
years, everybody said it was not possible to run the 4 Minute Mile,
mm,
physically, humanly impossible. Scientists said, the human body cannot do it, and then this man did it. And nobody did it for years, but then he did it. And then the next year,
mm.
like, I don't know how many people went and did it too. And it just became, oh, it's possible. And so that's how I was raised. It was like, if it's possible to do, then it's possible for you to do it too.
Yes.
You see?
Yes. Yeah. And that's so important. And I think, yeah, and I was talking to you about this before we started the call, but there was a book that I read during that time, just after we did the money mindset course, and it's called Mindset by Dr. Carol Dweck, and she's a psychologist, and she's done, I think, 20 or 30 years of research into mindset,
Mm.
from kids as young as 3 to elderly people. And what she discovered in her studies and how she kind of categorizes it is that there are people with a growth mindset and people with a fixed mindset, and that can apply to any situation. So if you have a growth mindset, which it sounds like you definitely do, LuAnn, it's all about just giving things a go, not worrying if you don't, win. It's just about seeing how far you can get
Mm.
and being curious about your own abilities. Like, oh, well, I'm just going to try this and see how I go. And then, oh, I wonder if I can take the next step and the next step and the next step. Whereas in the fixed mindset, and a lot of high achievers, or, people that, did academically well or in sports at school did well, have a fixed mindset because they're so used to being at the top that that's really what matters to them.
Mm.
And that if they can't meet that standard 100% of the time, it's almost like, well, why should I even try?
Mm.
I'm not even going to see how I go.
And so that's where it's the fear of failure that
Yes.
prevents you from even attempting the task or the situation.
Yes, exactly.
And of course, how cliche is that, right? Fear of failure. We throw it around like it's, whatever. But that is a very limiting and powerful mechanism for blocking your success.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Exactly. And what I've realized in myself is that is my default setting, that fixed mindset. A lot of the time. I was always a super perfectionist throughout school and university, or really in anything that I did. And it was interesting, a couple of years ago, I did just like a after work sketching class, and I've always really liked drawing. And I felt such mindset issues in this class.
Really?
It was like a 2-hour, like, come and have a glass of wine, let's do some sketching.
Right.
And I was so fixated on creating this perfectly drawn flower that I couldn't enjoy it at all.
Oh.
Yeah.
So here you are, outwardly you're interacting with the other members in the class, and it's like, oh, this is all fun and games. And you're like, not really. I'm making the perfect flower over here, and you're distracting me.
Yeah. And the whole time telling myself, oh my God, this is terrible.
And you've probably made the most beautiful one of the entire class, right?
Yeah.
Yes, right.
Yeah, it's a horrible feeling. It's a horrible feeling.
Well, and that's the thing. So from an intellectual standpoint, you probably had that moment of recognition and said, this is actually the most beautifully executed drawing in the class. So, did you have the reflection of, and why could I not enjoy the process? Like, what is going on? Okay.
I did.
Okay.
And I thought I couldn't enjoy it because I was so attached to that outcome of creating something that was really beautiful that I forgot about the process, and that this is actually about just enjoying yourself and seeing what you can get to.
Right.
And having some fun.
Right.
Rather
This is
than
not going
producing
to be
something
graded. My career is not, this was supposed to be a fun little hobby thing.
Yeah. So I think once I became aware of these mindset issues, now I just notice them all the time. All the time. I'm like, oh, why do I feel like that? Why am I thinking this? Why aren't I taking action on this? And so I really feel that for me, having that awareness has been such a gift, because it's allowed me to progress so much quicker. It's literally just been like a key that's unlocked things. And I still, I still go through this. I still struggle on a probably weekly or monthly basis with different mindset issues as my business grows and as I'm learning and trying new things. But having that awareness and the tools to, I guess, overcome that it's just been so helpful.
Yes. Well, and of course, it would be unrealistic to think that you wouldn't be having to continue to flex your muscle on it, right? I mean, because at each level of business and each time you achieve a level of success, you're going to graduate to new challenges at that next level of business,
Exactly.
right? And so what happens is, even though when you're, look back, like I'm able to, over almost 40 years of being in business, you can label the seasons, and you can label the challenges, and you can label the times when you had to go through something 2 and 3, 4 times because you didn't make the adjustment. And then once you make that adjustment, then you're like, oh, and that's when all that crap stopped happening, right?
Yeah.
So, but with each level of business and each level of challenge, it sort of surprises you. Like, it's not, what I'm saying is, it's not till hindsight that you realize that it was kind of the same challenge, but just couched in a different way because it was bigger and it felt like it had different players, or it had different moving parts. But the simple fact is that it's like, in hindsight, you're like, if I had just recognized that was that same little, like you said, key there that would have unlocked that, I could have gotten there faster. And so you get better at it as the years go by. That's the good part. You do get better at it. You get quicker at recognizing it and saying, not here, not now. I got this, and then you go sailing by. So I think it's realistic for you to always keep those things at your ready. You know, those
Yes.
tools that you go back to and say, why am I thinking this? What is happening here? Because once you have done what you've done, Alex, which is come through, no matter what the next challenge is, you know that the tools will work for you even if the new challenge surprises you.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and it's
Right?
just about diving in every time. And
Mm-hmm.
it can be really uncomfortable. Actually, a lot of the time it's really uncomfortable, but
Mm.
I have just realized in myself that I'm really willing to do that,
Mm.
to become really uncomfortable and to go deep to get to that next level.
It's very
I don't think
interesting.
you can get to the next level without that.
No, you have to be able to look in the mirror.
Mm,
You have to be able to look in the mirror. You know, you really do, because otherwise you're just pretending. And it's you at stake. It's you
yeah,
at stake. I mean, if you won't look in the mirror for your own self, what are we doing here? Like,
yeah, yeah,
right?
exactly.
You
Yeah.
know, you have to value your own personal person.
Mm. 'Cause it's your life.
Yes, you don't get another one.
Yeah.
It's not a trial run.
Mm.
Right, right. And so tell me about, I'm curious, two things. I want to know some of the
Mm-hmm.
business growth that you've had from it, but
Mm-hmm.
before we get to the business growth, I know that you got married this past year, right?
I'm getting married.
Oh, you were engaged.
Getting
Okay, so it was
married in April.
engagements.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, so you're getting
Engagement.
married. Okay, good.
Yeah.
I remember seeing it on Instagram. And
Yeah.
so the thing is, was, sometimes, like here you are, you're involved. I remember that you were already involved with your now fiance.
Yeah.
And sometimes people like people in the old box that they were in.
Mm.
So how has that been as you've emerged? It's like a butterfly coming out of a cocoon. And is
Yeah.
your partner embracing it and loving it? Or has there,
Yes.
this really isn't Oprah right now and really getting to, but I'm going to go there.
It's fine. Yes. Yes, he is. I honestly couldn't ask for a more supportive partner.
I'm so
Um,
glad for you.
yeah, I mean, we've been together for a long time, been together for 12 years,
Mm-hmm.
and we've been through a lot in that time. And I think both of us have evolved and changed and been through challenges. And I think, yeah, so he's 100% supportive of me. Sometimes he believes in me, I think, more than I do in myself, which has been fantastic. I also think that because he went through a big career shift about probably 6 or 7 years ago, and I supported him in that, it's kind of like, okay, we've done this before, we can do it again.
Okay, good.
And I think he saw in himself, so he went from, he didn't have a whole lot of direction, for the first part of his career. And then he decided that he wanted to be a firefighter. A few years into our relationship, and where we live in Sydney, so it's New South Wales fire and rescue, it's really competitive and difficult to get into.
Oh.
So it's not like you just apply and you get in straight away. There's a whole 12-step process, and you can only do that process, I think, once a year. So he tried out 3 years in a row, I think, to get into the fire brigade, and only got in on that last time.
Okay.
But then since he's got in, and now he's a career firefighter, he's just completely changed, and he has blossomed. And just seeing that, I think, in himself, and for me to be able to see that, it's like he's become the person that he was always supposed to become.
Right.
And he's so keen to grow and to be a leader and to just do the absolute best that he can at work all the time. And I think he saw what a change that brought to his life and to our relationship, that, when we talked about me starting my own business and changing careers to interior design, he's just backed me 100% from the get-go, because he's seen how much of that can change your life.
That's awesome. I'm
Yeah.
so happy for you, Alex, that you have
Thank
that.
you.
Because
Yeah.
that's a real thing, that one person
Mm,
decides to
mm,
grow and says, the heck with the way it's always been. Good enough isn't good enough. I'm worth
yes.
the best I can be. And sometimes the other person isn't ready to grow, isn't ready to And so you were, first, as you said, you were first the one that gave him the space to grow and to be the best person he could be. And now he's, happily helping you do the same. So
Yeah.
awesome. Love it, love it, love it.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
it. Okay.
What has been interesting though, actually, since all these changes, in myself and in my energy, some friends I feel like I don't connect with as much anymore. I just don't have time for their complaining and, oh yeah, I hate my job, but
I'm not going to
this
do
and
anything
that.
about it. Yeah.
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 I just don't have a lot of patience for that anymore. And I totally understand how they feel, but at the same time, I just feel like I'm on a very different page to them now. So we don't connect as much. So that's been interesting and challenging as well.
Challenging too. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because, they're your friends and you love them, right?
Yeah.
But, you know what I always say, things are a cliche because they're so true so often, right? You look around the 5 people that you spend the most time with. What are they doing? What are they? Just forget what your criteria for a quality person is. Like, in other words, I don't mean forget what your criteria is. I mean, your criteria might be different than someone else's criteria. And what I'm saying is, if you have a personal criteria for what the expression of someone living their best life is, when you look at the 5 people that you spend the most time with, are they doing that? Because if they're not, you're either, one of the numbnuts that's not doing what you're supposed to do, or you might be the one who's struggling and not understanding why you're not connecting with them any longer, because you have started to grow and make your own personal world better. And so it's the truth. I mean, it's like the same reason why we don't let our teenagers hang out with the bad kids, because come on, they're going to be bad.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think, what's been really helpful is just having that group of people, a separate group of friends that I can go to talk about this stuff and that I know will always bring me up.
Right.
Because we're on the same page.
Right, because there's a real thing, and that's why I did ask you how your partner feels with this, because there is a real thing when someone knows in their inner voice, their inner goddess voice, that they are not living their potential, and they see their friend or spouse or whatever start to do that, and if they haven't reached the point in their life where they can visualize doing it themselves, some people will try and hold you back with them because they are scared. That's all it is. They're scared, and they're seeing in the mirror, they're saying, Alex is doing this, I need to do it, but I'm not ready to, and I don't have the skills to do it, and I'm not willing to go out and find it. And so it's like, no, stay back here with me in the muck. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's tough. Yeah. It's very hard. It's very hard for everybody, but you gotta live your life. You gotta live it the best you can live. And once you know that there's another way to live it, shame on you for not doing it, right?
Well, it's hard not to do it when you know. It's almost like, when I became aware of all of this, you can never go back. And I think I've been very lucky in that I have brought my fiance with me. So the happier and the more positive outlook I've had and how I've changed the way that I talk about things, he's come along with me.
Nice.
Yeah,
Very
without
nice.
me really, pulling him along. It's just kind of organically happened.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and because like you said, he has stepped in and he's realized what makes him happy. And so, he's poised to just step into it further.
Exactly.
I love it.
Yeah.
So now let's talk about some of the business things that have happened with your new awarenesses.
Sure. Gosh, where do I start? I think, so one of the best things that I have done is really honestly think about what I want in life. So I'm not talking about this year. I'm talking about in the next 5, 10, 25 years' time.
Allowing yourself to dream it.
Yes, and it's the allowing, because I feel like when I started my business, I was like, oh,
maybe I'll decorate a room one day.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Or maybe I'll work with clients who, yeah, they don't have heaps of money, but they want to do this and that. And now I'm like, no.
Right.
What do I actually want?
Right.
And I have a really clear vision, which, took a while and a few renditions to get to. But I've got a really clear vision for my life. And that has been the thing that's kind of keeps me going and helps me to refine processes and systems and helps me to really hone in on my ideal client, for example, because I'm working towards what I want.
Right.
So that's been a huge thing. And as I've done that, each project that I've taken on has been bigger and more profitable and better design work than the last.
Great.
Yeah.
You know, the
Yeah.
thing about that is that it sounds like a simple thing. And maybe sometimes when people hear this type of statement, they think, all right, whatever, maybe I'll write it in a notebook someday. But the reality is that you do need to find out what it is that you actually want and vision for yourself. Because if
Yeah.
you don't, you cannot create it. And then if you don't, there's no accountability to yourself for creating it. And one of the things that I often say when I'm working with somebody is I'll say, let's just pretend there's no obstacles. There's no issues with money. There's no issues with skills. There's no issues with employees. There's nothing preventing you from waving a magic wand. And what does your business look like?
Yep.
Nothing. I don't want a logical answer. I just want to know, if we could wave a magic wand, what does it look like? And the thing is that almost every single time I've asked somebody that, we can get there. It's
Yep.
possible. It's never as crazy as anybody thinks it is. But if you don't write it down, to your point, you said, I looked, what do I want it to be like 5, 10, 15, 25? And it's the same thing whether you're talking about yourself as a human being. It's the same thing as you're talking about yourself as a business owner. It's the same thing as you're talking about yourself with your ideal client. What is it? Claim it, own it, and it
Yes.
keeps you on task.
Yes.
Right?
It really does.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, I say all the time when we talk about window works on the podcast, we know what our yearly projection is. So we sit there and we say, in 2019, this is our sales goal projection. And this is our individual goal for January. This is our individual goal for March, and, blah, 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 blah. And the simple fact is because we enunciate it, we get it.
Yes.
We
Well,
take
that's
stock
where, and
constantly.
that's also where what I've come to learn is that that's where your brain comes in to actually, it kind of switches on, and that confirmation bias switches on, and it goes looking for ways to make that happen.
Exactly. Alex, that's the
Yeah.
money line right there. Your
Yeah.
brain goes and looks for ways to make it happen. That's the money line.
Yes.
Right there. And the thing is, oh my God, now you're going to get me crazy, okay? Because here's the thing. It applies whether you're talking about a sales goal, a personal goal, a goal of breaking a mindset that's been shackling you. The thing is that if you know what you want, you can start to work and make your plan to get it. But if you don't figure out what you want, you're just getting up every day and going in every which direction, and it could be a really great day. I mean, it's not like life stinks if you don't have a goal. You sure still have people that love you, and you have amazing dinners and glasses of wine and watch TV shows that love, and you go on runs and you go on boating things. It's all good. But what is it? Is it what you want if you had the magic wand?
Yeah.
No, because we're not planning anything.
And the flip side of that is, if you tell yourself, well, I'm going to live in an apartment all my life because I won't be able to afford to buy in Sydney, which is something that I hear all the time from people, because Sydney, anyway, people love to talk about how expensive property is in Sydney, which, whatever. I just don't even engage with that anymore. But if you tell yourself that you're never going to be able to afford to buy a house in Sydney, it's never going to happen for you, because, again, your brain goes into action looking for that confirmation bias to prove that what you think is actually correct.
That's the truth. Our thoughts are so absurdly powerful, and so many people underestimate the power of our thoughts.
Yes.
And the nonsense that we tell ourselves that is the reason that we block things from happening. And you're exactly right. I could never afford an apartment in Sydney. Well, guess what? You probably won't. Like, and matter of fact, forget probably. You're definitely not gonna.
Yes, exactly. And I think that thought awareness has been crucial for me as well, to just, because sometimes you just get really caught up. You can get caught up for years in your mind with the same thoughts going around and around and around without actually being aware of what you're telling yourself.
Right.
So what's been really powerful for me is, if I'm feeling bad about something, or if I'm feeling like I really don't want to make this phone call or have this conversation with my friend or whatever it is, I really just write down, why am I feeling like this? What am I thinking? And then those thoughts come out on the paper, and you can actually look at them objectively and be like, oh, well, that's silly.
Right.
Cross that one out. This is actually what I want to think about this.
It's a process.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And go ahead.
It's about being aware of what those thoughts are, and then having the ability to reframe that. To just flip it on its head and be like, okay, well, how do I want to feel about this situation? And then your thoughts will change as a result of that.
Right. And I feel like that the more you do it, the easier it gets to do it in shorthand.
Yes.
Right? So like for you, you're in the phase of it where you are still knee deep in it, okay, and you're working through it, and you're hearing it now. So now you hear when your brain tells you a silly thing. You hear when your brain says something that's blocking you. You hear when your brain says something that is a mindset issue and not a truth.
Yes.
You see, it's a very bit different, right? Something that you have been taught by environment to believe, but it doesn't mean it's a truth. And so in this process of you taking a pen to paper and getting it out, and then you look and you say, that's I don't need to worry about that one. That reason is not valid. And this is really the thing that's at the heart of this. Can I attack this? Can I plan around this? Can I go through this? What do I have to do to not have this be what I'm thinking about in this situation, right?
Yes.
So what you're going to find, Alex, is the more you do this, you're going to get to a point where you're going to have that whole conversation in your head in a split second.
Yeah. That'll be great.
Yeah, no, you are, because you're working towards it. You're intending for it to happen. And here's the thing. Tell yourself right now, I'm going to be able to do this in a split second. And here's what actually better. The future doesn't come. So we don't say, I'm going to be able to. I'm able to do this.
Yes.
I can do this in a split second. I can analyze things in a split second and pull away the negative thoughts that don't serve me and focus on the positive thoughts that bring me and the people around me benefit.
Yeah.
It's always present. It's all recorded. You'll get it.
Yeah.
No, but it's the thing is, what I have to say is this is very crucial, is because a lot of people understand that the brain and the mind is very powerful and can create things, but they forget that the future doesn't ever come. And so you can't tell yourself that you will be able to do something. I am going to be able to do it. I am capable. I am doing it. I am a successful interior designer. I am a designer that commands and can earn the fees that I should be. I am able to do this. I am able to have confident conversations and tell people my price and have them have trust and faith in me that I can execute this. Yeah, it's not a future thing, because you know when I'm having my next donut, Alex. Tomorrow. You know, it's like I went about 6 years without having like a big squirrely, cinnamon frosted donut because I can't eat a cinnamon frosty squirrely donut. Those things are like 1,000 calories. That's insane. So I would go to the Starbucks every day and I'd be like, oh my goodness, I really want a donut. I really want that donut. I really want that donut, blah, 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 blah. And I'd be like, I'm having it. I'm having it. Today I'm having it. Today I'm having it. This is the deal. Okay, can I help you? Yeah, tall chai latte, please. Anything else? No. And then I would say, and then as soon as they would take my money and I wait for my chai tea, I'd say, yeah, tomorrow I'll have that donut.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I'm telling you what, it's 6 years before I had the damn donut. And then when I finally had it one day, I was like, this isn't even half as good as I remembered it. And I haven't had one since. And so the same thing is with the mindset in our business. We could use it the other way, right? I'm so terrified to call this client and have this conversation. Oh my goodness. I can imagine all the things they're going to say and they're going to be mad at me and all these things. And what if you just said, I'm going to make this call. I'm just going to make it today. I'm just going to make it. I'm going to make it. And if all the worst things happen, you know what? Tomorrow's another day, Tara, right?
Yeah.
Scarlett.
And I can handle it.
Right. And the thing is, 99% of the time, like when I finally had the stupid donut, it wasn't worth it. 99% of the time, when you push yourself through and say, today I'm going to make the hard call, it's fine. I can survive it. It's going to be hard, but I won't have to make it tomorrow. So I'm going to make it today. 99% of the time, you handle it and it wasn't nearly as bad as you thought it was.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? But you got to get to doing it. You got to get to doing it. And so one of the things that I noticed in the email that you sent me, Alex, is that you talked about how it was funny because before you were mentioning how you felt like, why would I be worth marketing myself? Who did I think I was, saying that I was good? So since you've had this little key, unlock your mindset, you've now been published in online, and 5 print publications are confirmed over the next coming months. So that's a big difference from somebody who doesn't even want to like make a flyer and say, I'm amazing.
Yeah, I know. Well, that was the other thing. I think, I used to look at the, interiors magazines and think, oh, wow, like these are really fancy people. I'm nowhere near as good as them and probably never will be. And I knew that I had good photographs of my work, but I just didn't think that getting into the crux of it, I didn't really think that I was worthy to be in those magazines that I just put up on a pedestal. And one thing that really helped me here, I've got a really good friend here, Gillian Dinkle. Shout out to her. She's another designer. She's actually she's from New York, but she now lives in Sydney. And she worked in magazines for years. And when I met her, she was like, what do you mean you can't get in magazines? Like, it's really easy. I'll show you how. And she made a process for me, I guess. She made a system and a process and was like, this is what you do before the shoot. This is what you do at the shoot. This is a sample email that you pitch to magazines. And think about it as, you're helping them. You're giving them content because a lot of magazines these days don't have the budget to go out and shoot homes all the time. They need that content being fed to them all the time. So she's really helped me with that. And it just really shifted the way that I was thinking about it because I was like, I'm doing them a favor. So I'm just going to send it to them. If it's not suitable for them in this month's magazine, whatever, that's fine. But I'll go to the next one. And of course I'm going to get published. And now I am.
I love it. And the thing is, we know this to be true. We've had both Ren Miller from Design New Jersey. We've had Amy Fleury tell us. We've had Ashley Hotham Cox tell us from the Charlotte area. They all have told us that you are doing them a favor, that they are all hunting for content. Okay.
Yep.
Now, to each of their points, each of them, I'll have to look up their numbers and put them in the show notes, the episodes.
Yep.
But each of them did also explain that there is a right way to pitch us. Okay.
Yes.
So your friend shared with you that, but of course, we've got Amy Fleury has the book Recipe for Press and Recipe for Press for the interior design edition.
And I
And
did find, her episode was super helpful with this as well, actually. Like I
right.
took heaps of notes.
Yes. And as a matter of fact, you know what? I am going to just switch to it because I know what Amy's episodes are. I wrote it down for another interview earlier today. Episode number
Yeah, she's been on a
108.
couple of times, hasn't
Yep.
she?
108
Yeah.
and 323. And so these are both terrific episodes in understanding that as long as you do it the right way, you are really being very helpful to the editors because they are hungry for content. And I remember I had that aha moment with Ren Miller. He was on in the first probably 10 or 15 episodes of the show. And I literally had the aha moment. I was like, wait, you mean you want people to ask to be in the magazine? And he was like, well, I need to put 100 pages out every month, Lou. Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, but I remember him also very clearly saying that, understand what my aesthetic in this magazine is, understand what I'm going for, make sure you bring what I'm looking for. And, I remember also him saying, when you send me your email, please don't send me a Dropbox with 400 images. Like, I'm not going to do it. Send me, 3 to 5.
Yeah, and you just make it easy for them.
Right, exactly right. And so I love that. And so now you have this coming up. How good for you.
Yeah,
How do
so
you feel about that?
I feel it just it doesn't feel that great, but it just feels like, yes, of course I do.
Right.
I've been in 2 magazines this year already, and then I've got 3 more coming up. But it was having that system in place and then reframing my thinking about it, like, oh, this isn't such a big deal. They need my help. Especially in Australia, we're such a small market compared to the States. There's not that many magazines.
Right.
And there's not that many designers. So
right.
If not me, who?
If not you, who? Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And the thing is, Alex, it's interesting because I also think it brings us back to that other point when you are now in those 2 magazines and you have the others coming up. That doesn't feel like you standing there saying in a rude way, look at me, look at who I think I am, does it?
No,
No.
it doesn't.
It's just you're capable of doing it.
Yes, and I just think it's been about me just becoming more comfortable with who I am and who the business is as well. And just kind of standing in my space. And I know you've talked about this a lot as well, LuAnn, on many podcasts, just staying in your lane, standing in your space and just being who you are.
Right.
And I need to remind myself of that all the time. Even with systems and processes, because, or, just the way that I do business. There are a lot of entrepreneur and business gurus out there that tell you that, if you want a successful business, if you want a 6-figure business, you're going to have to work, 14 hours a day, 7 days a week, not thinking about anything else, blah, 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 hustle, hustle, hustle. And that never resonated with me, but I just always thought, oh God, that's the only way to get there. That's not me. How do I do this? I guess I'm never going to be successful. Right. And then once, just over time, I've just realized, well, you know what? Actually, I don't really like starting work at 9. I prefer like 9:30, 10. And it's also really important for me to have heaps of downtime and space because that's when ideas and whole rooms and whole color schemes just come into my brain, within a half hour or so, rather than sitting there and really trying to make it work. So I think the more that I've honored myself and the way that I work best, the more easily this stuff has happened as well.
That's awesome. I love that. I love that. Recognizing that, if you schedule a 1-hour walk or whatever it is that you do that frees your space, that's not wasting time. That is actually productive time for you.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, exactly.
I love it.
Yeah, like for example, yesterday I did yoga in the middle of the day, which I haven't done in a really long time. I thought, oh God, this is 2 hours, by the time I leave and get home. I thought, oh, okay. Felt a little bit guilty actually, but I went and did it. And then the afternoon was so productive. I wrote like an entire presentation.
Wow.
in an hour. It was just,
wow.
it just all flowed because I'd given my brain that space.
Right.
I remember hearing you interview Studio McGee, Shay, is it Shay McGee?
Yes.
And hearing about her success, and I'm such a huge fan of her business and what she's done and the aesthetic that she's got and everything that they've done. But hearing about how they got there, I thought, oh, wow, that's a lot of work. It was the same thing. I was like, how am I ever going to get there? I can't ever imagine myself working like that, you know, day and night.
Right.
But yeah, I've just realized that that's fine, that doesn't work for me.
Right.
That's
That's
completely
what it
okay.
is. That's what it is,
Yeah.
isn't it? And that was what I was trying to bring out in Shay McGee's episode and also Amber Lewis's episode.
Yeah.
So same thing, right?
Yes.
In other words, you don't have to do this. You don't have to commit to 14, 15 hours a day. But understand when you look at what Shay McGee has accomplished and what Amber Lewis has accomplished, it didn't happen in a 6-hour day. So, you know, my thing is like, to your point, what do you want in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years, right?
Totally.
Yes. Yeah. And Shay knew what she wanted. So did Amber. You know, Shay said, I want an empire. And the thing is, you know, look, is that the only way to do it? Absolutely not. But she also said, I want an empire now, not in 40 years. Right?
Yeah.
You know, I'm putting the word now on it. I know that didn't come up in the interview, but what I'm saying is she wanted it. She didn't, like, we built Window Works. It's a 40-year empire, right? It's not even anywhere near the level of her business. But my point is to agree with your point. I'm so proud of what we've built at Window Works. And I would not have wanted, when my children were young, to do it differently. But Shay knew what she wanted, and that supports your point. Is she got very clear, her and Sid got very clear, what do we want? And then they set out and they made it happen. And that's for them. That's their path. You know, that's what they want to do. And they still do they have their built-ins, you know. He goes in the morning and she is home with the kids in the morning, and, you know, or vice versa. I think she's home in the afternoon with the kids. So he must go early to work in the morning, right? Yeah. Something like that, or vice versa. She goes in early and comes back early. I don't know what it is. They work it out. The point is they have a plan. That's the point.
Yes.
Right? And my other point in those episodes like that is that it's not, nobody's tapping them on the shoulder. It's not an accident. You're not just in your lane doing your 20 hours a week, and then somebody says, here's this amazing empire. Why don't you just go off and run it? You know, you give something up. You give, you know, but that the thing is that it's decide what you want and then build that to suit you. And if for you, really important and valuable is that you understand that you're more productive if you give yourself the permission to have a break, then yes, that's the whole beauty of being self-employed.
Exactly, I know. And for so long, I felt guilty if I wasn't at my desk by 9. And then, you know, taking a step back from that, I was like, why
Where
am I
are
feeling
the
guilty?
business
And for
police,
who?
right?
This is exactly what I wanted.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No.
And the same thing goes for systems and processes. Like, I've changed the way that I do things in the last 6 months or so, more to suit me and my clients, rather than doing something because that's what everyone else in the industry does, or that's what this industry leader says to do.
Right. Yes.
Which has really helped me as well. Just feel so much more relaxed and confident about things.
Well, and there's a good point in there, because I think the lesson in that is that I don't think any single one of us that is going to be, whether it's a designer on the show, it's a business coach on the show, whoever it is, yes, we have to have some intelligence. We have to come, we have to share a lesson, we have to teach a process, we have to teach a system or whatever. But to me, I never feel like every person it's even possible that every separate business owner in their uniqueness is going to execute these things in the exact same way. It's just not possible, because you do have to leave room for your personality types, your strengths, your differences, your flaws, your gaps. Flaws is not a great word. It's not even an appropriate word. Your gaps in your skill set, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And that was funny, because that was my intent on when we did LuAnn Live here in March. That was my intent with pairing an interior designer with each of my co-authors on the panels, because in my mind I said to myself, look, here is the recognized business expert on this particular expertise. So whether it was, marketing, or whether it was for Nancy Ganzekaupher, charging your worth, or whether it was for, Sarah Danielli and creating systems. I know that for every expert that tells you how to do it, every one of us goes about doing it, and we reimagine it and reinterpret it for ourselves. Now, there's only a certain way you can veer off before you're either actually creating a brand new way of doing it, or you're going to be ineffective. It's one or the other, right? Yeah. But to your point, if Fred Burns says get up at 6 o'clock in the morning every day and start work at 8, Alex can say, you know what, Fred, I'll see you at 9:30. Thanks.
Yes. Yeah. And that's actually a good point that you bring up about Fred Burns, because as valuable as I think creating an amazing bio is, what's been interesting about looking at his perspective on things, I just don't think it resonates in the Australian culture, in the Australian environment.
Interesting.
Yeah. Which, I have taken some of his tips before on creating a bio, but some of it I'm like, oh, this just wouldn't quite resonate with people, and that is completely fine, and it doesn't resonate with me. So just creating it in a way that honors me and where I am.
Exactly. Well, and of course that makes complete logical sense. I mean, how many times, people work for corporations, and I have a friend of mine that her daughter is almost every 6 weeks in a different country. And there's always the briefing before she goes to a country that she hasn't been to, with the customs and the simple things, the way you say hello, the way you say goodbye, and what's appropriate and what is respectful and what is considered an insult. And so it makes sense that some of the things that we would would work for us really well here would not necessarily translate in Australia. I mean, that's logical, right?
Especially to do with work, I think we're a lot more laid back. And everyone gets 4 weeks paid leave. That's just standard. We have things like paid maternity leave. And I think that has had a big impact on our work culture, because I don't think we work as hard as you guys. Doesn't mean we're not as productive, but we just are a little more low key about it.
Yes. Well, it's just like the difference from somebody from New Jersey and Iowa.
Yeah. I think we're probably more like Canadians.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, it is true. I mean, it's a big joke at WindowWorks, because we had Anne who worked with us for many years, and she was from Michigan, and she just she thought I was nuts. You know what I mean? And she, literally once she got to know us really well, and she was actually, when she was leaving after working for us for 7 years, one of the big lessons that she said it was funny, because I tasked her with making a list of all the things that she wanted her replacement to know. Because I said to her, basically, Anne, you've worked here for 7 years. I said, you have taken over more parts of this position that were ever part of your job description. And so now when I go to train the new person, there's probably things that you do that I don't even know that you're doing them anymore. And so would you keep a list? Because she worked there 7 years. Would you just keep a running list? It doesn't have to be anything formal, just a Word doc that's just like, oh, you know what? Anytime you go to do something, you're like, yes, that wasn't exactly part of my job description, but I have now, that is my responsibility. And if I'm gone, no one's going to know to do it. And so she kept a list. And so her very last day of work, we were all gathered around and we're talking and we're like, oh, we're going to miss you, blah, blah, blah. And I went, oh, wait. Where's your list of things for the new person? And she looks at me and she says, oh, Lou, it's in the computer. They'll find it. And I'm like, Anne, where's the list of things? I want to see it. And she's like, it's in the computer. They'll find it. I'm like, Anne, show me the list. please print I want to see it. And everybody's standing there, right? And so I'm like, okay, so I'm reading the list. Number 1, whatever. Number 2, I do this. Number 3, la la la. Number 4, LuAnn is not yelling. And I'm like, what? And so she looks and she just like kind of sheepishly laughs and everybody's cracking up. And I'm like, what does this mean exactly? And she goes, well, Lu, it's a real thing. And I go, what is a real thing? She goes, it took me a good 5 or 6 months to realize that you weren't yelling at me, that you're just crazy. And she's like, she goes, I used to think for the longest time that anytime you were talking to me that you were mad at me. I'm like, Ann, that's just Jersey. Come on now. Yeah, and she goes, I get it now. She goes, but I don't know. Maybe you're going to hire somebody from Michigan again.
Oh, that's great.
So it is true. It's, you have to account, and that all goes back to definitely take the advice of experts and business coaches and strategists and, people that create systems, but it does have to feel right and good for you. As long as you're not kidding yourself that I don't need to do those 3 things. And it's not because, it just doesn't feel right. It's because I'm lazy.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. It's a balance and it's about tweaking it. And I think the more I've, got to know really myself and what I like and what I don't like and what works best for me, that has helped me to run my business and create systems and processes that honor that.
And you just have to give yourself time sometimes to figure out what those things are, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, you don't just open your business and somebody says, this is the ideal way to do it for you. You have to figure it out. So Alex, I'm so happy for you and I'm so proud of you. I mean, when I think back to some of those initial conversations with you, the growth is insane. Absolutely so good. And that's my favorite kind of, seriously. And that's my favorite kind of person, Alex, is the person that is willing to, understand that there is a better way, that there is a possibility that what I've been telling myself isn't what I said earlier. It just because I've been telling it to myself or somebody else says doesn't mean it's true. It doesn't mean
exactly,
it's true.
And I don't need to believe it.
Right. You don't need to believe it because the simple fact is it is just what you're told. I happen to be told amazing things that supported me as a person. But you know what? They weren't necessarily true when I was 4, 5, 6, 7 years old either. They're not necessarily true now. My mother still says it to me, and I'm like, well, maybe we got to be a little realistic. She's like, why? I'm like, yeah, you're right. Why? Let's go for it.
I hate that word, realistic.
Right. So, and of course it is helpful when you have someone that believes in you. And sometimes, like I say on the show, if you need to borrow a little courage, find somebody that will lend you some courage and help you along the way until you get to the point that you really do feel it yourself, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And permission. I feel like sometimes I've had moments where I'm like, oh, should I be doing this? Am I allowed to do this? And having someone there that's like, yes, you're doing that.
Right. Absolutely. Permission to be your best self, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Oh my goodness. I'm so happy for you, Alex. I can't tell you how much I am. And you're looking forward to next year when you get married and you're going to grow this business to whatever you want it to be.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it too.
Awesome. Thank you so much for reaching out, Alex, and sharing this. It's a very personal story. Takes a lot of courage to share these types of learning lessons. It's not the same as, line up your spreadsheet and this is how you do it. So it takes a lot of courage to share this, but I bet you that a lot of your designer colleagues are going to be very grateful that you did.
Yeah, I hope so, because it really has. It's changed things astronomically for me.
Good for you. Good for you. Well, you have an excellent day, Alex.
You too, LuAnn. Thank you.
I have to say, the growth that Alex has gone through is rather extraordinary. In my conversation with her today, I can hardly recall the young designer who was struggling with doubt and struggling with her systems and the direction of her business. Alex is proof it can be done. You can break through old mental patterns, but it takes work, and you have to be willing to challenge yourself to think differently. The biggest thing you have to come to grips with is that the stories in your head are exactly just that. Stories in your head, between your own ears. These stories are not truths. They are not facts. In fact, I was recently talking with the designers and the window treatment pros who are in my Sales for Creative course exactly about this topic. Here's the thing. 2 + 2 = 4, right? This is a fact. It is indisputable. There is nothing subjective about it. But the stories in our head are preconceived ideas about our own success, about money, about our worthiness, about our value. These are not facts. These are programmed into us through our family, through our environment, through all the experiences that we have had throughout our lives. Think about it logically. 2 siblings in the exact same family with the exact same parents, how often you know it to be true that these 2 individuals have completely different ideas about their capabilities, about their ability to be successful, the way they handle money. So what does this tell you? It tells you that the mindset that you have, the limiting beliefs that you have built around yourself are not, in fact, true. In other words, they are not a truth. They are not a true 2 + 2 = 4 truth, right? Now, the mindset that you have feels like truth. I get this. I get that it's real for you. I do understand. But if you can accept, how is it possible that your sibling or your parent or your friend has a totally different belief system, a completely different mindset? Then how can you accept yours as a truth, right? I mean, if theirs is true for them and yours is true for you, it's not. I mean, it's not a 2 + 2 truth, right? Okay, so if it were a 2 + 2 truth, wouldn't it mean that we all have the same belief? Because 2 + 2 = 4 is true for all of us, right? Okay, so what feels like the truth, what feels real is in fact not real, okay? And that's the cool part, isn't it? That's where the joy of this is, because the joy in understanding and embracing this is that you can break free of the limiting beliefs and the stories that you have told yourself. You can reprogram it. You can rewrite your story, just like Alex has rewritten hers. Okay? I mean, I hope it's making sense, because this is what I want for you. I want for you to be your best self too, just like Alex is. I want you to be the best CEO you can be. I want you to be the best senior designer for your principal that you can be. Be the best expression of yourself. You were put here to be that person, not the person made up of limiting, rerun stories that swirl through your mind. But you got to do the work. Do the work. Read the book. Alex mentioned Mindset by Carol Dweck. I want you to go to seminars, go to conferences, do whatever it takes to surround yourself with people who teach you, who lift you up, who inspire you, and who will believe in you. You are the sum of the people you spend the most time with. Make it matter. You are worth the investment, whatever it takes. Okay, so big hugs to you today. Huge hugs to you, Alex, for sharing your story with us. It's such a personal journey, and I really am grateful that you took the time to share it with us today. And I want to say, if you're in the Vegas area in 2 weeks from now, on July 27th, and you want to be with me and the people I surround myself with, my husband Vin, my cousin Eileen Hahn, Nancy Ganzekaupher, and Stacy McKenna, I'd love to help you change your mindset. We want to help you build the business you were meant to have, the business you deserve to have. All it takes is someone to understand where you are right now and where you want to go. We can be that someone for you. Go to powertalkfriday.com and make the decision to change old patterns. Make the decision to invest in yourself, your future, just like Alex has, okay? In whichever way that is for you, whether it's coming to Power Talk Friday or reading a book or whatever it is. But I want you to consciously choose to rewrite the programming in your mind. Okay? And maybe one day you'll come on the podcast and share your transformation with me too. All right? Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for showing up. Keep making the right choices. Give yourself the pat on the back you deserve for all that you have already accomplished in every day, in every way. Keep deciding to be excellent. Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at LuAnnNigara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.